Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right, John Hancock.
Good to be back.
Good to have you back. On the left, Michael Kelley.
Good to see him.
All right, I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, new governor in Missouri, Mike Kehoe, sworn in, and he takes swift action to certainly make his day one day to remember. Also, St. Louis Mayor Tishaura Jones on the city's icy streets. Does the crisis have her re-election campaign on thin ice? Confirmation hearings begin for Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. Pete Hegseth finds out there's no ducking Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth. And in our quote of the week, Republicans in Indiana, the Hoosier state, look to extend their border into Illinois as far west as the Mississippi, right up to the banks of St. Louis. Also, big names and big money go all in on a St. Charles County election that's still more than a year and a half away, plus banning TikTok, or not, and the passing of a baseball legend, a former Cardinal, never to be duplicated, Bob Uecker. We begin with Missouri's new governor, Republican and North St. Louis native Mike Kehoe, sworn into office this past week, leaving no doubt about what's at the top of his agenda.
This is my promise to you. I will talk to anyone, work with anyone, and root for anyone who has a good idea to make our state stronger and better. My administration will be relentless in our efforts to make Missouri a place where it's easier to be a cop than a criminal.
The governor immediately signed 6 executive orders dealing with public safety, from the state trooper pay scale to expanding regional crime fighting and helping U.S. authorities enforce immigration laws. John Hancock, there's more to come along these lines, including a return to state control of the St. Louis Police Department, even though city voters approved local control more than a decade ago.
Yeah, I mean,
going too far?
No, this is my guy. I worked on the campaign. Worked on that inauguration. It was a good speech, and but I will say that he is laser focused on public safety, and so that should be no surprise to anybody. He did sign some executive orders as soon as that speech concluded. It's not sufficient. It's going to take some action by the Missouri legislature. I believe they will get it. I think the level of cooperation that Governor Kehoe is going to have with the General Assembly, I think, is going to make for a better legislative session that we've just launched a week or so ago. So I'm really excited about his leadership. He gets the problems in St. Louis. He grew up here, knows all too well about the effects of living in a dangerous environment.
He's unlikely to push for any gun restrictions, but he is likely to push for abortion restrictions along with the public safety measures.
Well, at the end of the day, he's a Republican, and I would expect that he would be out there on those. It was a fine inauguration, John. You did a good job coordinating in it, and it was a great speech that the governor Vic gave. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to be hopeful here, and that Mike Kehoe understands that St. Louis and the region's in a problem. It needs some help. It doesn't need the typical demonization that comes from Jefferson City. It needs a partner to help us dig this region out of whatever spiral we find ourselves in, because we ultimately will help benefit the whole state. So while Governor Kehoe is going to continue to push forward with policies I don't like trying to roll back the will of the people on abortion, etc., I think he's spot on in realizing that we've got to do something to fix some of the problems that exist in St. Louis.
Democrat St. Louis Mayor Tishaura Jones called a news conference to proclaim that crime is down, way down in the city. The police department reports 150 homicides in 2024, still alarmingly high for a city that is shrinking dramatically. The city's population has fallen by about 40,000 people since 2013, but police back then reported 30 fewer homicides compared to 2024. Also, the number of shooting victims in the city went up last year, with more than 670 people shot. Still, Michael, it was the second straight year that police have reported fewer than 160 homicides after at least 200 in each of the mayor's first 2 years in office.
Well, fewer fish in the tank means less people. This is just a horrible situation. I guess you can champion this as a huge victory, but I think it kind of speaks to the spiral the city's in as it relates to its homicide problem. Even with our dwindling population, it's still driving a narrative. And you know what, Andy, as a person who lives in the city, I just don't feel it. I don't feel like things have gotten better, and maybe that's an unfair measurement, but I think it's a realistic one.
Well, it's a common refrain. Is this Is crime a strong issue for her? Her primary is about 6 weeks away now.
We're celebrating here that our criminals can't shoot straight. I mean, that's what we're celebrating. More people are getting shot out there. Fewer of them are dying. Well, I suppose that's good. But speaking of not shooting straight, this administration is so incompetent in every aspect of their leadership, and to be touting that crime is under control when it's clearly not, when there's people out there listening to us this morning who don't feel safe going to a Cardinal game on a Saturday night. You've got to get the crime problem under control, which is why state control is important. It's not going to solve the problem, but at least you're going to have adults in the room making decisions, setting policy for that department that hopefully will begin to turn things in the right direction.
160 murders in our area, 150, still a lot, right?
Yeah.
For a city of about 270.
Right, and if you look purely at the numbers, they're going down, but still not a good story.
We got more when it comes to the city. The city's response to the winter storm from 2 weeks ago may now be the hottest election issue of the mayoral campaign. Dangerous, iced over streets in St. Louis persisted deep into the past week. Still a lot of them not quite this bad this morning. Keeping people trapped at home, students out of school. This as the mayor praised streets crews as heroes on social media before leaving for Washington midweek to raise money for her re-election campaign and to attend a Conference of Mayors event. The Streets Department director told the aldermen of St. Louis that, and she told the public, including me, that side streets were being treated, especially around schools, only to say days later that her staff misled her about that. It wasn't actually happening. Thursday, City Comptroller Darlene Green asked the traveling mayor to declare an emergency and hire contractors to help clear the streets. Days ago, 12 days after the storm, 2 days ago, I should say, which was 12 days after the storm, a spokesman for the mayor said emergency snow removal contracts were approved, saying, "We know it took too long to move away from the city's historic policy of not treating or plowing side streets." Again, John, about 6 weeks from the mayoral primary. Is this going to haunt the mayor?
I think so, because here's something that every voter in the city has experienced. And, you know, I find it fascinating that the director of streets, okay, that's your job title. That means you're in charge of one thing, Andy, the streets. And she hadn't been on the streets to understand that they weren't plowed. She was taking other people's words as the director of the streets that the streets were in perfectly good condition. I mean, this is emblematic of the whole administration here that is just can't get it right. And yeah, I think mishandling a disaster is something that bodes ill for the folks in charge.
Not only mishandling, Michael, but they told us, they told city residents, the media, the public, again and again and again that this was being addressed, this was being taken care of.
Right.
And it wasn't.
No. Well,
And it still really hasn't been. Could this be the last straw for Tishaura Jones?
It potentially could be, and I should disclose I'm working for some groups that are supportive of Kara Spencer. Having said that, you know, this mayor has failed here, and this is, I can sit here and list off thing after thing, whether it be trash, roads, etc. This is what's happening across the board because the rudderless ship of chaos that existed inside of our prosecutor's office clearly now has been also in our mayoral office. There is no oversight. There's no supervision here. If the boss is away, the mice shall play. Your streets director didn't know that the streets were bad? This is unbelievable. But really the people who have to wake up here are the voters in the city of St. Louis, Andy. They've got to start voting for elected officials based on local government issues, things that basic government services, not policy in Gaza and Israel, not emissions tax, not all this other nonsense that can't be solved at a local level. Do the job that you're hired to do. Keep us safe and make this city run.
If the mayor's race seems hot right now, the race for St. Charles County Executive to succeed Steve Ailman after 20 years in office may be hotter, and that election is more than a year and a half away. New campaign finance reports show a mega donor contribution for Lake St. Louis Mayor Jason Law. $400,000 from St. Louis County political financier Mike Rayner. His campaign now has more than twice as much cash on hand as anyone in the St. Louis mayor's race, with that primary, again, about 6 weeks away. Former State Senator Bill Eigel, who lost his bid for governor, is far behind Law, with his donations coming almost entirely from out-of-state retirees. County Council Chair Mike Elam is the third candidate to have registered a campaign committee He says he's in the race to stay, but he has yet to really launch his major fundraising efforts. Michael, these three Republicans are the only to have filed, and no Democrat has, at least with a committee. Eigel may not run. Does all this money behind law this early mean he's going to win in August, or is it?
Well, it sure is helpful. But I think
August
this
26th.
Right, but I think this is going to be an extra focused on race. Why? Because Steve Ailman has probably been the strongest and steadiest hand of regional leadership we've had in the area. This seat is being vacated for the first time in quite some time, and there's a lot of folks who want to make sure that we have stability and rational thought coming in behind Steve Ailman. And clearly we're starting to see some in the business community and other places start to weigh in. $400,000 for any candidate is a huge step towards victory.
Well, Jason Law is a law and order guy, right?
Yep.
What does it tell you when there's this kind of early action?
Well, I am working with Jason Law, so I need to disclose that. I think what it really does is signify the importance of this seat, St. Charles County Executive, in the region. It is a very important position. They represent more people than the mayor of the city of St. Louis, for example. And Steve Ailman's leaving. There's only been 2 county executives ever in St. Charles County, Joe Ortworth and Steve Ailman. Steve's been there, will have been 16 years. He's been a pillar of strength and leadership in the region. And I think there's a lot of people who look at Jason Law, what he's done as the mayor of Lake St. Louis, what he did is running the strike force for St. Louis County Police. He is a police officer. And they like the law and order platform that he's running on.
Yeah, he's still a lieutenant colonel with St. Louis County Police. He told me he will retire if he is elected. Still to come on Hancock and Kelley, the TikTok ban, will it stand? And Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth gets a tongue lashing from a fellow military veteran, Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth.